Hi guys, it is April from Getting Huggo With It. Today I'm here to share with you the best books that I have read so far in 2019. Let's get into it. So I'm going to be honest with you, this has been a rough reading year for me in terms of quality, in terms of quantity. I've just been struggling. So I have 4 books that I want to recommend to you. And that's it. These are the best books that I've read. I really enjoyed all of these books and they've stuck with me in a way, some of them that I didn't expect them to stick with me. First up is Educated by Tara Westover. I really enjoyed this. There's a lot of hype around this book. Many of you have probably already read it, but I really enjoyed it. It's nonfiction. And it is about Tara Westover's life as a young child and into her adolescence. She lived kind of in the country with her family, and she had very interesting parents. Her parents were, I want to say Methodist, but I could be wrong. No, her parents were Mormon. And they did not believe in health care, like bringing someone to the hospital if they're injured. They would just treat them at home. They also didn't believe in sending their kids to school. They didn't really give them an education at home. Like, I think homeschooling is really interesting and cool, and but they didn't really teach them at home. They taught them how to read, and that was it. This book explores Tara and some of her siblings' desire for an education, and it also explores abuse. So there's definitely abuse in here. There's sibling abuse. Tara Westover was abused by her brother physically, and it was terrifying to read. I can only imagine how terrifying it would have been to live and even write about after. But she, like, from the very beginning that even though she wasn't educated well when she was young, she ended up going to Birmingham University and then Harvard and Cambridge. Like, she did okay. She did very well, very well for herself. I really enjoyed it. I do kind of want to see where she lands in like 10 or 20 years looking back, because this book felt so fresh. It felt like it had just happened to her, and it pretty much did. Like, I think she's slightly younger than I am. So it's still really fresh. That wound has not healed yet. So I'd love to know her insight in like 20 years looking back, and what she'll say about it then. I'm curious. Like, if there was an Educated Part 2, I would read that. I also have to recommend Pet Semetary. I really enjoyed Pet Semetary. This is by Stephen King, and this is my second Stephen King. I read It, and that was fine, but a little too wordy. This was not wordy. This was perfect. This is about a family who move to a bit of a rural setting, and they move there because the father has this opportunity to become a doctor at this little town, and so they move onto this super busy street, and one of their neighbors comes out and they're like, just so you know, be super careful on the street. Lots of pets die because there are transport trucks going, and you gotta be careful. He also informs them that there's this little pet cemetery close by, and he admits that sometimes people will bury their pets in the pet cemetery or just beyond it, and the pets will come back to life just a little bit different. And it's about their story, and I really enjoyed this book. It was creepy for sure, but it was more of a story in my mind about grief than anything else. And I really appreciated that. Like I appreciated the depth of this horror book. You don't always get depth in a horror book. And it really brought that. It really brought that. I thought it was really well written as well. Like, I now do want to go back to Stephen King's earlier works and kind of explore, because I enjoyed it so much. It was just really, really good. So, shocking, Stephen King is on my best of 2019. I wouldn't have expected it. I also really enjoyed Washington Black. This is one of the first books that I read in 2019. And this explores the life of a slave boy. He is born in the States and he's a slave there until he meets this man who's the brother of his slave owner. And they have this connection, and this man, you know, pulls him under his wing. It ends up being a bit of an adventure story. He moves all over the place. He goes to the Arctic at one point. He goes to Canada. He's kind of all over the place. And I really did enjoy that. What I was blown away by was the relationship between Washington Black, this black boy, and his slave owner's brother, and their relationship together, and how even the most well-intentioned white men who seem to have abolitionist ideas could still not treat a black person like a person. And that's really what it explores here. Like, you care about that white guy. I can't remember his name, which is terrible. But you're also wanting to like slap him over the head. Like, you're not looking at Washington Black like he's a human being. You're not doing that. What are you fighting for if you can't do that? Like, what are you doing? So beautifully written. I really, really enjoyed it. If you haven't read Washington Black yet, I really suggest that you do. It is hard to read at times because it's about slavery, but it's also really thought-provoking, and I loved it. And then last but not least is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is a thriller, and it's about a young woman who is totally broke, and she has to apartment sit at the Bartholomew. Now, this is not a shoddy job. Like, she's excited because the Bartholomew in New York is the most prestigious apartment building in New York. Like, a lot of people want to get in. They're rejected. And so she apartment sits there, but there are a lot of strange rules. Like, you can't leave the apartment overnight. You all have to stay every single night at the Bartholomew. You can't have house guests. There were just lots of weird rules. And she gets there and she realizes she's not the only apartment sitter. There are plenty of others. And she realizes that it's a very strange place, and the people are strange. The apartments themselves are strange. This really does have Rosemary's Baby vibes, without the baby or the pregnancy. And I really loved it. Like, I loved it. I just said in another video that I think this is the thriller of the summer. I really do. This is coming out July 2nd. Brilliant. I couldn't put it down. I loved it. How many times can I say that? So those are the 4 books that were just the cream of the crop for me so far in 2019. I'm hoping the next portion of 2019 brings me better quality. Like, I've been really struggling with that. I want to read some good ones coming up. So fingers crossed. But I hope that you guys are doing well. Let me know in the comments below what the best book that you've read in 2019 has been thus far. I would really love to know. Maybe you can help me out with the quality portion of what I need in my reading life. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk with you soon. Okay, bye guys.